Yasmeen Kadu here, your Dearborn girl poster child that's a lover of all things social justice and a lifelong learner.
And I'm Rima proud daughter of Dearborn, avid vibe capitalist, and professional love letter. In today's episode of Sabaya, we have the pleasure of sitting with Fatima Muhammad and Khulud Fidama. Ladies, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
My name is Faduma Mohamed. I am a Dearborn girl, was raised in Dearborn proudly. I go to Wayne State University for social work and work at Providence Hospital. We have a page called They Discuss the Unspoken, where we're just a couple of best friend girls discussing topics that are usually taboo about out in our community, and we like to it's kind of controversial sometimes, but sometimes you have to talk about things that are uncomfortable so you can solve the problem and come from a place of love. It doesn't necessarily have to be controversial, but we like to talk about relationships, self-love, and things like that. And so again, they discuss the unspoken, and it's a platform that we're very proud of as Dearborn girls, as Muslim girls, as women of color. And yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Khulud. I'm a Dearborn girl, Yemeni Dearborn girl, born and raised here. We do the page, me and Faduma together. They discuss the unspoken. We also work together, so we're together 24/7. You'll never see us apart. We both work at Providence Hospital. We're literally the twins that are attached. Our page is, like she said, everything she said is pretty much what it is. And it's just a page where it's just a lot of emotions, and, we're just talking about things that they don't typically, think, normal, Muslim hijabi girls would even mention or bring to the table. It's just, we're trying to break culture norms and just, get our voices out there, because it's about time. That the girls from Dearborn start talking, and this is, a great platform that you guys have, too, and that you created.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you, of course.
We appreciate you guys for having us.
So speaking of topics people don't usually discuss out in the open, today we've gathered to talk about relationships. And before we start the discussion, I will say that we all came up with questions for each other, and we don't know any of the questions, but I will say that Faduma texted us and said, what are your love languages? And if you don't know what your love languages are, please take the test. So I'm actually going to turn the question on you. And I'm going to ask you to explain love languages and to tell me about your love languages and kind of your interaction with that, being in relationships too.
Okay. So the love language was actually introduced to me by my aunt. She's always doing these quizzes, personality quizzes and stuff, and and I love doing stuff like that because I'm so fascinated by the human psyche and just in general personalities and how we can all come together. And so the love languages, 5 love languages, and it's the quiz is by Dr. Gary Chapman. The 5 love language that you have is words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Now I think a lot of people get confused by because I know my love language, people think I have to treat them with my love language and that's what love means. That's not what it means. It means you have to know your partner's love language so they feel they feel like that you guys love each other basically. So when you show your partner that hey, I know acts of service is your love language, so I'm gonna do things for you, and that just shows you that I love you. They're gonna be more receptive, and then they're gonna do the same for you. And so you have to know. It's not about you knowing your love language. You can know your love language and let your partner know, so then they can do that for you, and you guys can both feel fulfilled in that relationship. But it's more about you knowing your partner's love language, so you can make them feel special and make them feel loved. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people kind of get confused with that. But my love language is quality time. And I kind of, it's weird, I didn't know what love language was, but when I took the quiz and I got my answers, it made a lot of sense because I appreciate quality time. I'm more materialism things, getting gifts and all that. It's nice, but I like to spend time with the people that I love, not necessarily even relationship love, but more so anyone that I love connecting with people. I love spending time with people, and so it made a lot of sense to me. When I don't hear from Khulud for a couple of days, I'm like, girl, what?
That's true.
I'm sorry, but I don't feel loved, And so it made so much sense
I'm the
to
guy
me.
in the relationship.
Yeah,
After
totally.
after. Sorry,
Totally.
babe.
When we're single, you have to make your best friends So I feel a type of way when people don't like try to make time, because I try to put that effort into spending time with people, and so I feel a type of way for sure, and everyone I love knows that about me. And so I don't know, it's just very fascinating to know that about the people that are in your life, so they can feel special, because everyone deserves to feel loved, you know.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
It's funny, Rima and I talk about the quiz a lot because sometimes there's people, like quality time is not always a love language that is easy for somebody to understand that doesn't have quality time. So it's one of my love languages, and so I always really, really resonate. And so everything you just said, I definitely resonated with.
That's awesome. Do you guys, well, I guess I can ask that question. The reason why I even asked the question was, do you love your do you know your love language, and do you think it's beneficial to know your partner's love language, and why do you think that, like, basically? So I kind of gave my opinion about it, but
Yeah, I can go. So, I took this, I think, a couple years ago, but then I made my whole entire family take it at one point, and I always make people I love take it because one point you brought up that was really important is this idea that we were taught when we were young to treat people how we want to be treated.
Yeah.
And it's like the worst advice ever. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't know, like, how many situations I've been in where I wanted to be treated one way and I thought that that's how someone needed to be loved in that
Absolutely.
situation, and I was wrong. And I realized through taking the love language test that oftentimes the things that I need to feel loved are not the things that other people need. And so in order for me to be a better lover to my friends, my family, and someone in the future, I need to be humble enough to be like, what do they need? But another thing that I learned from that is that understanding my love languages helps me better advocate for what I need.
Absolutely.
And so my love language by far is touch. And it's because I come from like a very touchy-feely family. Like anyone who's been around my family for 2 minutes, like we're very weird. Like we're always touching each other. Even like annoying things, like we'll pinch each other. You can't walk by without getting pinched or like smacked or like someone's hair is getting pulled. Like we're just very touchy, and that from a very young age has been my subconscious way of feeling like, oh, they love me if they're touching me. Like when my dad would be mad at me, like I'd walk by and he wouldn't pinch me, and I'd be like, and so like when in relationships, like if I'm getting to know, and so it goes both ways for me. Like if you touch me and I don't feel comfortable with you, I get really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So like I need to be at a certain level of comfort for you because that there's so much weight with that. But I used to feel so embarrassed about asking for that. Like I need to, like I want to hold your hand, or like I can spend an entire day with somebody that I'm getting to know, and if their love language is quality time, they probably go home feeling like, wow, great day. If they don't like hold my hand or touch me or anything, like I will literally feel like I just was unloved the entire day. And so it helps me better advocate, like actually no, like it's okay for me to be needy for love language and words of affirmation, which are my top two. But quality time, I could care less about, and it creates a lot of issues for me and the people that I love because, like Yasmeen was mentioning, like I had to realize that, okay, I don't care about seeing you. I don't even need to talk to you all week. But if you care about that, then in order to be a better friend, I need to kind of like step up and give you what you need.
For sure.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think it's a lot of people suffer with the quality time. Because, like, me and her, our love language is both, so we have the same as quality time. It's so important for us. But I was actually, like, in the two. So mine was quality time and physical touch, but I made quality time first. But I understand what you're saying with the physical touch. But for quality time, like, I know, like, my sister, she's finally learning to do, like, you, like, adjust, like, understand other people. That for some people, this is how they need to be loved and whatever. But it took her a long time to understand it because she was like, you know, people should accept me and, you know, like, this is who I am. Why do I have to? But sometimes it's like you have to work with somebody. You got to be 50-50. And that's why, like, I agree with you when you say, like, people should know each other's love language because it helps you, like, kind of come to, like, a middle with them. And you guys can, like, fix things and work things out.
Absolutely.
And they're open. Anybody that's open to take it, clearly they care enough about you to want to, like, let's see where it's going to go.
Definitely, definitely.
I think the beauty of life, too, is to know that we're all different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if we all wanted quality time, like you don't have enough time in the day to do
Definitely
that,
not.
like, you know. And so it gets to the point where there's also a fine line. Like quality time doesn't necessarily mean I have to be like tethered to you. You know, it's just show me that you want to spend time with me. Show me that you're. It doesn't even. I don't have to be right next to you. You're texting me. You're calling me. You're showing me that you're thinking about me.
Yeah.
you know, and so that means everything to me personally, and so I feel like people just think like, oh, like you might be needy or clingy, like not necessarily. Like I don't have to see you every day of the week,
Yeah.
but I do need like I need like an affirmation that like you care about me, and by me needing to know that, you have to show me with my love language, not with your love language. And so it's so important to understand that.
Definitely. So if you haven't taken the quiz, go take the quiz. Talk to all your friends.
It's by Dr. Gary Chapman, you guys.
It's really
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
I put it up on
Not long at all.
Instagram last year, and like a bunch of people took it, and were like, it started a lot of really, it's a really fun conversation.
It is.
Even if you're not in a romantic relationship, if you're a parent, they have a setting where you can take it about your child, because it just helps you be a better person for anyone in your life. So I would recommend it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I recommend it too. It's really nice.
Definitely.
It's interesting though,
It's
because you
fun.
learn about yourself too, especially if you're not in a relationship. You really learn about yourself like before even getting into one, because it kind of teaches you like what you're looking for.
Definitely.
'Cause
Definitely.
a lot of us really generally, before the love language, I had no idea what I was looking for. I
Yeah.
was like, I just want somebody that's hot. That's it. I don't know what else comes with the package.
I'm so glad you just said that.
It's true. That's what we look for, though. In the beginning, we're all just like, somebody that's hot. And then when you realize, like, oh, okay, there's more to you. What else is there? And then you learn about yourself, and then, like, you start putting things that are important.
I just feel like maturity, like, too, like, that comes with that,
Yeah.
too. Once you've, like, been in a relationship, once you learn that that's not the most important thing ever.
Absolutely
For sure.
not.
And,
I want to transition us, and I said I'm glad you said that, because we're all about the taboo topics.
Mhm.
And in getting to know you ladies and talking to you before bringing you on the show, both of you mentioned that you're divorced. And because Yasmeen and I are extremely single and like have way less experience in that department, we want to hear, I think it's an interesting mix of women at the table right now. We want to hear about what you've learned through that, and how, like, maybe even tie in the love languages, and if any of that has helped you better understand, like, what went right, what went wrong, what you should have been looking for other than him being hot,
Yeah.
going into a situation.
Trust me, I've learned a lot. I'm gonna tell you that. And you wanna know the crazy thing? But so I'm not even gonna say my ex was unattractive. I'm not the person that actually goes for looks or anything. I'm usually like personality wise. But my marriage was actually like, it was an arranged marriage. And like when you're growing up, that's like what I was like, oh, arranged marriage, this is like somebody's gonna come ask you, you're gonna get to know them. I've always known like I think it was more like I knew I was able to get to know somebody, but at the same time I was just being comfortable. And I think also being young, I had a lot of insecurities, so for me it was like, oh, somebody came, so I know when I was married, it was different. I noticed like my mindset. You think you can relate with somebody, and then it's just like, for me, like, it's important for somebody that can be on my level a little bit, that can understand me, and I just felt like I was always, like, lost in translation. So, like, communication, I used to be like, oh, I just want somebody that's funny, that's gonna make me laugh. I never thought, like, who's gonna work my mind, who's gonna make me think, who's gonna be there, like, when I have, like, something that's not going right, who's gonna talk to me, are they gonna be able to comfort me, help guide me through something. And the communication skills that we had was just, it was going nowhere. It was always an argument. And because like the way our mindsets were, we weren't the same. And I think that played like a big role. And for me, I learned like, like sometimes you can love somebody, but you can't be able to relate with them in a way. And sometimes like when somebody's toxic for you, you have to walk away from that, because you start losing yourself. You start losing what you actually believe in, and you have to actually take care of yourself. You have to, at times, you need to be selfish, because I always say that though. I always say like, I can love, like for me, like I'm that person that loves, and when I love somebody, I give you like every part of me. Like there's not a part, like I give you all of me, but I know when to like, I have to step back, because I started feeling like I lost myself. I went through like a depression, and it was just like, who am I? Why am I always crying? Why am I upset? I'm not happy. So it made me stronger. It made me be able to speak my mind more, because I used to feel like I had to hide who I was just to please them, because I was like, oh, and in our community, like nobody wants to be the divorcee. You don't want to be her, like, because they start making you feel like, oh, she's not a virgin no more, so she's nothing. What do we want from her? Like, let's get like, it's like what you always tell me, Faduma, because she always say like, people always say like, oh, let's go to the one that's next in line, that's still like, So I used to feel like, oh, damn, like, oh, okay, so that's it.
So was it just men that made you feel that way, or women as well?
It wasn't even, I think it was both, to be honest. And I think mostly it was women, because, when we were younger and stuff, we never really got to like sit with the men and like listen to their conversations. It was more like what women would say, because women would be like, you don't want to be divorced. You want to make sure, like,
Wow.
you know, like, you want to work your marriage. You can make it. It's just you guys are going through a little, like, patch. Like, you can fix it. Don't worry. Just take time. And it's like, yeah, I mean, how much time am I going to take? I'm going to die by the end of this, like, year. And you're telling me take my time.
So people would tell you that when you were...
Like, as I was, like, you know, like, when you want to talk to somebody and vent,
Yeah.
but then they just make you feel like, okay, Scooty, like, khalas.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody hear what you're saying. Don't let anybody... Just go work on it and make sure, show that you're happy. Like, create this image for people, like, oh, it's a happy marriage. And so when you get out of it, you finally, like, stand up for yourself and you get out of it. And then you're just like, okay. And they're all like, but weren't you happy? I saw you. Remember you used to post? You look so happy. And then I was like, listen, I was born to be an actress, okay? That's got nothing on me, honey.
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry.
Oh my gosh.
But it taught me to be strong, honestly. And it was, people always ask me, like, is it something I regret? I don't regret going into that. I think it made me grow. And it made me the person that I am. I think without that experience, I wouldn't be who I am today. And to be, like, able to even sit here and talk about it, it's like, I want girls to know, like, sometimes what our families want from us or what the community expects from us, it's not what we have to do. It doesn't make it right. Sometimes you have to, like, think of yourself, and it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to choose yourself sometimes. And
100%.
and I think it's always about, like, your happiness, because at the end of the day, you're the only person that can make yourself happy, and no one else can ever have that control over you.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So that was a big lesson I've learned.
That was beautiful.
Oh,
Like, seriously,
thank
like, I'm
you.
just, my
Yeah.
heart.
I love
you
that.
guys are so cute. It was a lot.
I'm sure. I can't even begin to understand. Like, so it's just, for me, sometimes I'm all about empathy and accountability. I was actually talking about you. We can talk about this later in the show. But I think, like, I really love when people can balance both of just empathizing with a situation but still holding someone accountable. Like, okay, just because, like, this is the state of being doesn't mean that this is the right way to be. So let me, like, feel you for a second, but also, like, tell you what needs to be done. And I think the reason I bring that up is because when I envision these women pouring these messages, sometimes toxic messages to you, I can't help but empathize with how they must be dealing with their toxic relationships and how their kids or daughters or nieces or whatever, whoever they're pouring into, those are the messages that we get. And so oftentimes the implicit message is that, Habibte, it's better for you to stay in a toxic relationship than be on the other end of a divorce. Like, and they think they're doing the best thing for you. Like, they really think they're looking out for you. So, of course, I empathize with that because those are the messages that we get. But I'm still so happy that you did what was best for you. And we do need to hold those women accountable who have that platform and are telling people that. So could you kind of talk, in either of you, about, like, what happened, like, all of these myths that people have about what it's like, and maybe some of the facts about what it's like being on the other end of a divorce, and which ones are true, which ones aren't for you?
So, for me, I was young. I was 23 when I got married, and I think that I had this illusion of love and more. And now that I'm grown and I understand what love is and how it feels to be loved, and and then going back, and I was like, did I actually even love my ex? Like, I really don't even think, I think I was infatuated by him and I was more in lust with him. He was a very handsome man. I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to that, for me, I was more about looks than actually, like, looking within. And so I like to know people's personalities and stuff, but I was so young and, like, everyone around me was getting married, and you drink that water, like, all your friends are getting married, and you're like, okay, like, well, I need to jump on the bandwagon. And so I did do that, and against actually, like, popular advice from my family and friends. And so when I did it, and then when everything was unfolding, I was very ashamed because I felt like, wow, like, I'm an idiot because everybody told me take your time, and, like, this is not, like, finish school, do this, do that, and, like, now how am I even gonna say, like, this is not working out? Like, I'm so embarrassed, and, like, for the longest time, the title of divorcee is what made me stay in the marriage. It wasn't about, like, not feeling supported. It wasn't about, like, it was just the title of, like, okay, now that's on my resume. Like, it's a taint on my resume, and it'll forever be on my resume. It's something I have to always mention. Like, like, even though, I didn't have kids or whatever, but, like, that's something you have to mention because it's part of your life, And for me, I think I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm gonna stay in this marriage. And I tried making it work. And I'm not gonna say that he was a good guy. He just wasn't marriage material, and he wasn't my husband. Like, he wasn't meant to be my husband.
Right.
And so once I came to I ended up actually getting physically sick, and depression made me physically sick. And so got to a point where my family was like, yo, this is not worth it, and my parents couldn't recognize me anymore. My friends couldn't recognize, I was not the bubbly Faduma, open-minded person. I just kind of stayed at home all the time. I kind of disappeared from society, and my mom told me that, she's like, listen, when you get a divorce, it doesn't belittle you as a woman. Bil'aks, if you actually look at the Prophet's time, he actually made dua for divorced women, they have a lot of karam and a lot of blessings from the Prophet. And so she was bringing it from the religion standpoint of view to kind of give me some sort of peace to make that decision. And once I did, I came to terms with it. Is it really worth my life? I'm 25 right now. I have my whole entire life ahead of me. Yeah. Can I possibly live this life? And once I came to that realization, I left. I could not. And I lost my identity. And I had to rebuild my identity. And it took me 4 years to date again, because I had to love Faduma again. I had to figure out who I was, because I got married so young, where I didn't know who I really was, and I became a wife. That just became my identity, and I loved being a wife, but that's not all I am. And so when I got divorced, I had to figure out who Faduma was after high school graduation and a college student. Who am I? What kind of woman am I? What do I want to be? And once I figured that out, I think now I'm okay, I'm ready. I know who I am. I love myself, and so it's a long journey, but once you get to that realization of loving yourself and being happy with yourself and knowing you're beautiful and you are smart and you are capable and you don't need a man to hold you back, and it's okay to have failed at something. It's just a chapter in your life. It's not your whole book, and so just knowing that part of my life, knowing that, yeah, it's on my resume, but it's only a chapter, and I still have my whole book to write, I think that gave me a sense of peace.
Yeah, and I feel like the divorce is, for us, it doesn't define us at the end. It doesn't make
Absolutely
us, because, people always try to say, always, and, in our community, too, it's, always they try to point at, the woman's fault, what are her flaws, and, they try to break you in that, but it's like she said, once you learn to love yourself, and you learn to accept, and the thing is, especially going through divorce, everybody has to hold, as we were saying, being accountable. Everybody's, made mistakes through that marriage. It's being able to also forgive yourself, because I had to go through forgiving myself and understanding my mistakes through that marriage, too, because I'm could I have really made it work? Could I have really did something different? Could I have been more honest? You start thinking of those things, but then you learn to forgive yourself and learn, you can't question it, and everything happens for a reason. And this was just, it's like she says, a chapter, but it doesn't define you. It's not you. It doesn't make you. So for me, when I started, getting to know people and started dating, I don't right away start off with, I'm divorced.
Okay.
Because I feel that part of my life is going to come when I trust you enough to give that to you, to see, are you worth for me to tell you that story? Because it took me a long time to get over that. And it took me a long time to find who I am, that I don't want you just to look at me oh, this is divorce, and oh, step back. No, find out who Khulud is first, get to know me, and then as we go, then you can understand, oh, well, this is what I've been through, and this is what has happened. Are you willing to, ride it out with me, or do you want to go?
Yeah.
But at the end, I feel you have to, earn my trust. It's not... Because I know sometimes you start off with it. Faduma does.
I used to.
She used to.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually going to bring that up. So
yeah.
I used to. It was so weird because I think I was so insecure about it. That's the first thing I used to say. I just want you to know, yeah, I've been divorced, so, don't waste my time. If you're not okay with a girl who has been married before, just don't even bother with me. And I used to start off with that. And so... whether it turned a lot, which was weird, I think a lot of guys were surprisingly okay.
And what's your point?
Yeah, so I think I came to the why am I putting myself down?
Yeah.
At the end of it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't define me, and it took me a long time to come to terms with that. But no, when I started dating, that was the first thing, because I was so insecure about it. For sure, 100%.
For me, it's I'm divorced, but listen, boo boo, I am so worth it. You know what I'm saying? They
It
don't
doesn't
know
even
what
have
you.
to be a but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I
And-
am worth it. So for
Yeah.
me, it's like if that bothers you, then clearly you're not the one.
For
Okay,
sure.
you're not ala din Allah ma'ak. Next. That's where I start thinking Ariana Grande now.
Thank you.
Next.
Next.
Thank you.
Do you think it was like a combination of insecurity and wanting to be just brutally honest from the bat?
Maybe, and maybe for sure. I think because I just feel like don't waste my time.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like I know what kind of love I can give.
Mhm.
So if you are not okay with this and you for some reason feel like it may be too complicated for you or your family won't accept it, please just don't waste my time. So I'm just gonna bring it to the forefront because I am very blunt and you're right. Like so maybe it was a little bit of insecurity and a little bit of like I don't want you to waste my time.
Yeah.
So you said that for the most part you had positive reception on that end, or
For the most part, for the most part, and I predominantly like have only dated Somali men.
okay.
Because I am Somali. I'm not sure if I had mentioned it, but yeah. So I, for the most part of my life, only dated Somali men, and so in the Somali culture, it's not so much that it's taboo, or like back in the day, I think it was, but still, like it wasn't like to the point where it's like, oh, you're worthless or whatever. It was more so like. It's something it's kind of to like look down upon, like, you know, but it's not like you are not accepted in society. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making any sense, but and so for me, like, yeah, I would hear like families talk about like, oh, like my uncle wants to get married, but no, like he shouldn't, like, you know, the girl has been married and she has kids and whatever. But then when it happened to me, all of a sudden my family was like, oh yeah, you're cool and like, you know, you're young and beautiful and whatever. And I'm like, well, what sets me apart from that woman that you guys were talking about when I was like 10 years old? Like,
Yeah.
what's And so I think for the longest time, that was where the insecurity was coming from. But when I was talking to the guys from my generation, Somali guys from my generation, they were like, listen, at least you did it the right way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Like, we partied, you know? And, like, you did it the right way. Like, you got married and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so, like, in the culture, like, you know, there's obviously different... What's right and wrong is different for everyone, but I guess culturally and religiously speaking, there's a right way to do things, right? And so that's what they were saying, like, well, we've messed around and like whatever, like we should be ashamed, like not you, like whatever.
Which is true. A lot of them said that. Even when I started dating.
Pleasantly surprised. Pleasantly surprised.
Like, oh, but you were married. It's not like you just went and whatever. Like, I don't get what's the problem. I was like, I never said it was a problem. I'm just letting you know. And then like they explained their stories, and I'm like, oh, okay, like. The only difference between you and I is I have a piece of paper, you don't.
Yeah.
That's just it. It's interesting. It's just an interesting journey to go through. And I feel like, and alhamdulillah, I think the best thing, and like I think for both of us that we both can agree on, is our families are supportive. They were our support system. They were the ones that like pushed us and took care of us. And honestly, without them, I don't even know if I would be this strong. Because I have to give them that credit, because they were like. What did they say? Like, they were my dad always tells me that, and he's like, you're like the wings for me. So for me, they were like my wings, and without them, I feel like I wouldn't even be like able to talk about this, because I know a lot of people that when they get divorced, they literally lose themselves.
They can't talk about it.
They're like, I wish I actually stayed in that marriage. It's better than going back home, because how people treat them and whatever. So we're very grateful for that, alhamdulillah. And I think today's like generation, it's sad, but divorce is so common. Like, I feel like everything is just like, it's adi now. Like, even when people talk about it, they laugh about it. And I'm just like, well, damn, I got a whole like lesson out of that, and you're laughing, but okay, whatever works. Because now it's like, everybody's like, oh, it's out with the, like,
I think it's just because,
get something new.
I think also is because, you know, the commitment is so important.
Yeah.
And so when you commit to something, and a lifelong commitment at that, into a whole human being, your world shatters when it doesn't work for you, you know? And so I think a lot of people take marriage very lightly nowadays. And so when they do get divorced, it really they just let it roll off the shoulder. And I think the reason why it was so hard for us is we took it serious. I loved being a wife. I just didn't love being married to the person I was married to. But I cannot wait to be a wife again. I love that lifestyle. Like, I love cooking. I love all of that.
Listen,
and
we
that's
love
not to say
staying
that's
at
all a
home,
wife is.
relaxing and having. The only thing we didn't benefit was we didn't get a good credit card to go spend. To be honest,
But I mean, no.
I want that life. I'm tired of working.
I feel like that's not all a wife is, right? Like, just the whole cooking and cleaning
Yeah.
thing. But to be honest with you, I love that responsibility.
Right,
I
yeah.
enjoyed it. It's very therapeutic for me. And I love doing things for someone, you know? And
Yeah,
just
it
taking
was
care of
fun.
someone. Because that's just what I love to do. I'm a natural nurturer. And
Yeah.
so, I don't know. Being a wife was something I absolutely loved. It's something I'm absolutely looking forward to. I just didn't love who I was married to.
Yeah,
That's
he
just
didn't
simply
make
what
the
it was for
experience.
me.
They didn't make that experience fun for us, and
I
people
feel like
always
they
laugh
cheated
at
us
us
out, yeah.
because they'll be like, "So you guys want to work?" We're like, "Listen, inshallah, we will continue. They discuss the unspoken, but when we get married, we're no longer working. We're gonna find good husbands, inshallah, and we're staying home. We're gonna be those like wives that are." Hello, hi, Khalto. How are you?
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
making right now in a
Oh my goodness.
Allah was like, let me call that one. Did you hear what she just told me?
Oh my goodness.
Like, we want to be those, like, no, not like that. We're not going to gossip, inshallah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm just saying, that's all.
Yeah,
Let me take that away fast.
Dang, Khulud.
So I think I love that we're talking about this because I think there's so much controversy around like feminism and what it really means to embody feminism. And I always have the unpopular opinion because I think that like if that's what you want to do, at least you like as long as you have the choice and someone isn't telling you that you need to be at home doing that or that you need to be at work, like as long as you have the choice as an individual,
Absolutely.
like that's what
For sure.
empowerment is.
100%.
And I think a lot of times like especially like this is the same premise applies to women with the hijab. Like, oh my God, like the hijab is oppressive, and it's like, don't you sound a bit oppressive telling another woman like what
Exactly.
right way there is to be a woman? And I think it's a beautiful thing in our culture where in any culture like there's a lot of white women that are stay-at-home moms proudly, you know.
Yeah,
But
for
somehow
sure.
when Arab or Muslim women talk about it, there's always that quote of like, I wonder if that she's just been socialized to like want to be, you know.
Yeah,
and I love that
absolutely.
you say that because I want to be a working woman.
Yeah.
Like, but I also want to be a cater. Like I want to be an like a full-time mom as well.
You wouldn't
because
be,
it's very
no,
important to
and
me, you know?
there's nothing wrong. I feel like women are we're superhuman.
are.
I really genuinely
We really
believe because I
are.
feel like we have that, we have the capability of multitasking. That's just
true.
as women. That's what because we were born to birth and give life, right?
Yeah.
And so to do that, kids are running around doing things, you know, and so you have to be able to adjust your mind. Okay, I'm gonna do this now, and I'm gonna do that, and I can work, and I can do this, and I can do that. So for me personally, I like my career. I like working, but I know that once I get the opportunity, and I am blessed to be a mother one day, and I'm blessed to be a wife one day, I want to engulf myself in that and completely enjoy that. And that's not to say that I'm not going to be a career woman, and it's not to say that I'm not going to finish school or whatever, but I do want at least that part of like that's the one thing I know right now in my life is once I get that opportunity and once God blesses me with children, I want to be a full-time mom. That is something I'm going to be so proud of being and something I'm going to put my whole heart into. Because I do that with everything I love anyways, but just children, I feel like they are our future and you have to be able to do that for them, and I feel like that's just my calling once I'm a mom.
We just want to raise our kids, especially with today's generation. How I look at it, like for me, it's always like I want to raise my kids. I want to be there for them through it all. I want to teach them what we were taught when we were young. Not let's watch TV, go play on the iPad. I want to make them active and like do the fun things. And
Definitely.
And, you know, it changes. You just want also a partner that's gonna be okay with like, okay, our kids in school. Like I want to go back to work. I want to do this. Like, you know, it's with time, I guess.
Definitely. And I think like all of that is a choice, and all of that is super amazing and important. But we need to hold our men as accountable, because like when we talk about feminism, and just like Rima said, that it might be a little controversial with feminism, but it's really not, because feminism is technically the social, political, and economic equality. For those of anybody that's listening that needs a refresh of the definition. And with that being said, our men need to be as accountable too. And I think sometimes as a community we don't do that. And I think that women just tend to do everything. And I don't even think it's just our community. I think it's probably like
It's a lot.
It's every community.
It's every
community.
community.
It's every
It
community.
manifests itself differently in each
100%.
community with different cultural norms.
Yeah.
But it's not an issue that we experience in a vacuum in our community at all.
Absolutely.
I
And then
agree.
there's something to be said about like in every community, like if you really notice the pressures of marriage, it's always on the woman. And I understand some of it has to do with biological things, but like if you really notice, it's not really just the black and brown community that goes through the pressures of marriage once you reach a certain age for women. It holds true to even like the Caucasian community, like
You could say white.
white. Yeah, no, it's so
You know, we can say that. We say it all the time at work.
it holds true. No, for sure. Like, and so I feel like you also have that responsibility to hold all men and women accountable to the fact that like women are able to do what they want to do, and they have that choice, because at the end of the day we all have our own brain and we have our own voice, and you should exercise your right to empower yourself.
Right.
Definitely.
It's true.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. That's why sometimes they feel like they're so stuck. They're so scared.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to like use that and be able to stand up for yourself and understand what's right and what's wrong. And I remember because someone was saying, "Oh, aren't you guys always like forced into marriage, or you guys are arranged marriage, whatever?" And I remember, and I was like, I watch a lot of movies. I remember I told this girl at work, I was like, and I usually see like a lot of the white girls in the movies. I was like, they're always kind of sad because doesn't the dad want her to only marry that rich guy, and she's like in love with the poor guy? I remember seeing that, and your dad says you're gonna no more money, honey. If you get married to this guy, you have to marry that one. And she was like, yeah, but that's different. Why is it different?
Yeah,
Why is
exactly.
it different?
Like for me, and I remember asking her, I was like, why is it different? She's like, it's just, she's still gonna marry that. I was like, okay, I don't understand. I can marry whoever I want. I can bring anybody to my dad, and I'd be like, I love him, and I want to marry him, and he'd be like, okay, as long as this is what you want. Your dad's gonna tell you no.
I need to ask you something. I'm so glad you brought this up.
Yeah.
So do you feel, so obviously like we all know as Arab women and as Muslim women, like that in like, so we're talking about Dearborn, right? Our community is the Arab and Muslim community. The way that our community is perceived by like whoever they are, there's a lot of stereotypes. But what about inside? So we have a diverse group of women sitting at the table today. And like, what about inter-community? Like what you just brought up, what are the misconceptions about like Yemeni culture that you've experienced? And same thing with you in Somali culture, or even just generally, like, where did you grow up in Dearborn?
So we grew up in the south end of Dearborn. So growing up there is completely different from like the east end of Dearborn. So in the south end, I was, people always look at us like, oh, we're these girls, like these Yemeni girls that are locked in the house. We can't really do anything. The men don't support us. And, like, that's it. Like, they have to be hidden, and they can't do anything because the men control them, and these women are, like, just meant to, like, have babies and cook. Where when I came out of that, and, like, you've seen it. Like, it's not like we're going to sit here and say, oh, it doesn't happen, or there aren't people that are like that, because it is. And, a lot of people will be like, oh, she just said that. But it's the truth. It's out there. When I got out, and I remember, like, my dad was, like teaching me, like, no, you want to do something. You have to stand up for yourself. And I come from a family of 7 sisters. So we have no brothers. And he would always tell us, like, you guys are by yourselves. Like, you have to be independent. You don't need a man. You have to work. You have to stand up and whatever. And I remember, like, understanding that. I was like, yeah, but people are going to call me a whore if I do that. Or people are going to say I'm a slut. Or I'm doing this because, why? Apparently where I grew up, like, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And where today I'm just like, call me whatever you want. I'm happy. Alhamdulillah, he taught me to stand up for myself, be independent. And a lot of the Yemeni girls have like came out of that, and they're all like do so great for themselves, and they broke those barriers. And I'm so proud of them because they're actually doing a lot for themselves. And there's girls that are learning like I can do something for myself and I don't need a man. And I think like we grew up thinking at one point like we do need a man. And the only way to be happy was you have to be married at a certain age, and you want to be like at like 18, you want to be married, and you want to have your first kid, so that by you're like 30 something, you'll be the young mom at the kid's graduation. Because I remember I used to hear that like, don't you want to be young at your kid's graduation? Now I look at it, I was like, I don't care if I'm like 60 at my kid's graduation. I want to like live my life and do things slowly and do that. And it was a lot like growing up and like understanding that. And I remember like people would always tell me like, oh, you're Yemeni? Well, you do that. Why do you do that? Like, you're not, don't your people, like, do this? Some of them, not
What
all
people?
of them, though.
So like when you say people, like
So
people
I
in
used to
Dearborn.
hear, yeah. So like,
Like
people
Arab,
from
like
Dearborn, like
Lebanese?
actually, like yeah, like Lebanese people would talk to me, like Palestinians, Jordanians, Iraqis, like they'll ask that because they're like, well, we know you guys like this, or like the way I dress, like you're not in abaya, why you're not covered like from head to toe, or I was like, I'm sorry, the lady, you know, that sells the same abayas as everybody in the south, and she ran out of colors, so I had to like manage.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in the South End as well, and I grew up being the only Somali in every grade, all the way to graduation, being the only Somali, only black mahajaba in my grade, from third grade when I moved to Dearborn to graduating from Etzel Ford High School. And so for me, initially, I started experiencing racism at a very, very young age, to like I didn't understand what it was, because I know like the idea behind my parents moving to Dearborn was to have kids that wore hijab and still felt comfortable being Muslim and being proud of the fact that you're Muslim. So coming to a community who doesn't accept you because of the color of your skin was so foreign to me. And so for me, I had a lot of, like, I was strong enough, like I can't explain it. Like for me, it's just this trigger to talk about it, and it still kind of sometimes gives me anxiety, because I feel like to be judged for the color of your skin, and then to call yourself a Muslim, and then you are teaching your kids that, and your kids are literally bullying and abusing these kids, and then the teachers are bystanders not doing anything about it. Is just so, I feel like there's so much injustice to it. And then for me, it's like an oxymoron that you wonder, like we sit here and we wonder, like, why do other people treat us different, but you're treating your own people different, you know what I mean? And like there's so many microaggressions of like stupid little jokes that your friends or parents would make, or like, you know, like, oh, you're, you know, a little, like, she baked in the sun a little too long, like, but you know, that's my kid. Or like things like, you know, their sister is a little darker than them and they'll call their sister Abda as a nickname. And like people thinking I can't speak Arabic, and so they'll call me Abda, and I'm thinking, like, what? Like, how am I now? Like, I'll say, like, why are you saying that? Like, we're all Abidullah, you know? And so I'm telling them, why are you saying that? Like, we are all the servants of God. Like, you call yourself a Muslim, you should understand that. Like, if you want to say black, you can say soda, aswad. You know, that's the correct term for black, if you want to say that. And so now all of a sudden, I'm more respectable to you. But I'm still the same girl that you were calling a slave, like, literally 5 seconds ago. And so for me, like, that was so frustrating. But I'm so proud of you guys for having this platform, for allowing us to speak on that. Because I did watch and that's how Rima and I connected, was I watched that first clip of What is a Dearborn Girl, and I really didn't see a lot of diversification. Like, it wasn't really versatile. It was just one type of Dearborn girl. And so I think it did do the community a little bit of injustice. And when I brought it up to Rima, she, and graciously, like, I was so proud of her, and she held herself accountable and invited us onto this platform, and to be able to represent ourselves and be able to represent our community, because we are Dearborn girls and we are proud to be Dearborn girls, but we're not just one type of Dearborn girl. And that's so important for young girls to see.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. We're so happy to have you guys on the show and to be able to talk about these things. So I guess we're gonna wrap it up with the last question, because you just said you're proud to be a Dearborn girl, and I think this is a good segue.
Yeah.
Can you both tell me why you're proud to be a Dearborn girl?
I feel like we all obviously have our, like, there's a lot of issues that we all need to work on as a community, and it's always good to have constructive criticism, but it's so important to know that, like, when I go out of town and I feel like I'm not being welcome to restaurants, and I'm not being, like, when I come home, I feel like, oh my God, like, I'm being welcomed back home. Like, I'm getting good food, I'm getting smiles, I'm getting, hi, Habibti, how are you? Like, and then we're just so, I feel like, hospitable. There's a sense of community, there's a sense of culture, there's a sense of, at the end of the day, love. Yep. Within our community. Obviously, like I said, there's a lot of issues, but at the core of it, there is always a sense of love and belonging, and and it's getting better over the years. I feel like, yeah, maybe I didn't feel like that when I was younger, but now as an adult, people recognizing what the issues are and trying to come together and be better, and then also making you feel welcome and that, yeah, you do belong. I just love that, and I grew up here. This is home to me. My friends are here. My family's here. This is everything like I've been is Dearborn. And so, yeah, I'm very, very proud of it. Very proud.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, being a Dearborn girl, I can do this accent, you know, and no one can be mad. You know what I'm saying? You can't even be angry with it.
That's not even a Dearborn accent.
It's almost there. Come on, Rima.
Your normal accent is so much more Dearborn than that.
Lady, you need to just chill. Can you tell her? No, I'm just kidding. Being a Dearborn girl, honestly, is just, this is like Faduma said, it's a home. It's all we, like, everybody just connects in some way, even though we all have our differences. I believe, like, as a community, we always will stand strong with each other no matter what, if anything goes bad. And I feel like that's something we do, and it's growing, it's changing, and we're developing every day. And I feel like our voices now in Dearborn, like, we've made it to a point where people are allowed to speak up now, where people are allowed to make that difference and, like, try to make change, and people are beginning to be acceptable of it, and I love that about it. And Dearborn is just a home, you know? We have great food. We have good argila places. People treat you with nothing but respect, love, and kindness here. Even if they hate you, they will be the nicest person to your face, and they will treat you with so much love and respect.
Didn't know where she was going.
It's true.
It's true.
And honestly, like, it's like a, what do I say? It's like living in a forest. There's so much beauty in it, but in the inside, there's so much, like, craziness going on that has to be, like, fixed and adjusted.
Okay,
But when you look at it from the outside, it's just beautiful.
Yes.
If you look at it, it's just, like, the scenery that you can't stop looking at. When you go in, everybody's got, like, a little messed up, like, function family going on inside, you know?
I like that comparison a lot.
Oh, yeah. You know, I do a little bit of writing every year.
I like it. I like it.
Dabble every once in a while. Try to get you guys a good metaphor.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you guys so
We wanna
much.
say
Thank you guys.
And honestly, like, we're so grateful for you guys.
Thank you.
Grateful for you guys holding us accountable, honestly. And I'm saying this so that other people can hear that this is genuinely a space that, like, we're not representing anybody's voices. We're creating a platform, and we want the beauty of the communities that we're serving, which is all of us here, to be, like, to feel like they're a part of that in a way where they can take ownership of it and they can tell us what they want seen.
Absolutely.
And I'm so happy that we were able to get together as Sabaya today.
We
I
appreciate
love
you guys
that.
for
We
having us.
appreciate it.
We had a lot of
We
fun.
had
fun.
I feel like it was our own sister circle.
It is.
Literally.
And I appreciated that.
It's
I
like
love
a
you girls.
girl
You guys
talk
are
over
amazing.
here.
So thank you guys
Thank
for having
Thank
us.
you guys.
Thank you
for-
guys.